In a world of larger-than-life moments, 2024 was a year that redefined the boundaries of pro wrestling. The unthinkable happened. Vince McMahon sold the company and stepped down in disgrace, this time for good. WWE merged with UFC to form TKO. Monday Night Raw found a groundbreaking new home on Netflix, and with it, the dawn of the Paul Levesque era began.
Because this is the first WrestleMania of the Paul Levesque era.
But it wasn't just business that made headlines. Inside the ropes, 2024 delivered a year like no other. The People's Champion returned, not to electrify, but to dominate as the final boss.
The Rock and Cody Rhodes, hard time, because this is what happens when you with the final boss.
The bloodline shattered, with family turning against family in an all-out war for the mantle of tribal chief.
Acknowledge me!
An icon walked away from the ring for the last time, leaving behind a legacy that will echo through the ages.
It's showtime. Showtime for the last time.
The American Dragon embarked on the final countdown of his legendary career.
Time is running out. If this is my last year, this will be the most epic of my career.
Defying the odds to capture the World Championship one last time.
All Elite Wrestling World Champion, the American Dragon, Braden Danielson.
And as one chapter closed, another reached its triumphant end when the son of a plumber finally finished the story. Blood was spilled.
I prayed for this and it happened.
Dreams were realized.
I am the feeling.
Tears flowed.
And the new undisputed WWE Champion, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes!
And through it all, fans witnessed matches that will live forever in the annals of wrestling history.
If you live 100 years, you'll never see anything like this again.
The best story.
At All Out, we're all going to see what a heartless Willow Nightingale will do.
The best moments. The best match ever.
Hello.
Hello.
Braden Herrington here with Davie Portman for Poison Rana. And this, you heard it off the top, is Best
Match Ever.
2024 Part 1. That's right. Part 1, baby. Happy New Year out there to everyone, all our tadpoles, our wrestling friends. It's time to look at the best of wrestling in 2024, the most fun we could have on a podcast, because we're looking at the best.
Oh yes, we are. This is one of the best shows of the year. The best. Because we just get to relish in some incredible matches that happened in the previous year. It's the most fun show to do. It's a hell of a lot of work, but hey, is it really work when you're having fun? Just get to go back and go through the year. Like January 2024 feels like a whole other lifetime ago. So it's always fun going back, revisiting. We did put up a short list of matches. You voted in your hundreds. And we're about to run through what placed 10 to 6 based on your votes.
Yes, we do these shows every year in January after the year had passed, and we put it to you guys. You, Davey, you create this list of all the top-rated matches of the year, and then we send it out to our listeners and our friends, and then we take all the votes. You tally them all up. We even vote, and then we get the top 10 list, and then we've split it into 2 different podcasts. So, yes, this is part 1 of Best Match Ever 2024, and if you want to go back in the archives, you can check out the episodes from last year and the year before that and so forth. But we decided that we would give out this first episode for free. So if you do want to check out episode 2, go to our patreon.com/poisonrana for only $5 a month. You get access to that show, plus all the other shows that we do, including retro wrestling reviews, movie reviews, and so much more. But we decided, hey, why not give the first half for free? And if you like it, you might as well check out part 2. So today we're going to talk about 10 to 6, if my math does me correct, of the top 10 matches of 2024. And what a year it was in wrestling. You could hear off the top in a great intro, Davie, that you just put together. It was a wild year of wrestling. It the wildest. You're talking about Vince gone from WWE, the PLE era, the Sting retirement, to epic matches and showdowns and everything. There was a lot of good. There was also a lot of bad, but there was a lot of good in wrestling in 2024.
Absolutely. And we're going to be covering multiple different companies on this show as well. I thought it might be a fun little thing to kind of just revisit and quickly have a look at our list of last year of our top 10 matches.
Ooh.
I've got it right in front of me here.
Okay.
See if you remember any of these and some things. Maybe you're listening to us, you're brand new to wrestling. You started watching wrestling in January of 2024 and you wanted to know what was good in 2023. And we had in 10th place, Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley from WrestleMania 39 Night 1. We had in 9th place, FTR versus Jay White and Juice Robinson in a 2 out of 3 falls match from the Saddle Dome on AEW Collision. We had in 8th place, Hangman Adam Page versus Jon Moxley in a Texas death match from AEW Revolution. We had in 7th place, Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus from WrestleMania Night 2 for the Intercontinental Championship.
Oh, yeah.
And we had in 5th place, the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the undisputed Tag Team Championship from WrestleMania 39 Night 1. In 5th place, we had MJF versus Bryan Danielson in a 60-minute Iron Man match. We had Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. from Wrestle Dream on the 1st of October. We had in, where are we now? 3rd place, Hangman Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland in a Texas death match. 2nd place, Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay from Wrestle Kingdom 17 for the IWGP US Championship. And in 1st place, a match we were both at, Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega for the IWGP United States Championship from the 25th of June at Forbidden Door in Toronto.
Wow. Those are some great matches. I mean, 2023 was a great year. And I think if the Forbidden Door match between Kenny and Ospreay wasn't your match of the year, I think maybe the Wrestle Kingdom Tokyo Dome match was probably your match of the year. Like, those two had it wrapped up as soon as you watched those. I remember watching the Tokyo Dome one specifically, like, oh boy, that one's going to be a tough one to beat. And then Forbidden Door, I think I skewed towards voting for that one because we were there live and everything. But yeah, I mean, those two definitely have magic. Who knows? Maybe in 2025 we'll get that match one more time. Just maybe. Fingers crossed, maybe. But wow, what a year it was in 2023. But what a year it was in 2024. Let us know if you agree or disagree with some of the things we say in this show, because obviously wrestling is an art form, whether you like to admit or not. And wrestling can be objective, because art is objective. Sometimes you could be disagreeing, like, no, I hated that match, or wait, why aren't you talking about this match, and so forth. That is why we let you vote to see, let the numbers on the board speak for themselves of where people's love for specific matches this year really went, because they could be anywhere. I wouldn't argue with any of those matches from 2023, but there was so much good wrestling matches. So many good matches in 2024 that, like, any of these 10 could have been your pick. And that's totally okay that if it was. But if yours didn't make the list, then it sucked. It didn't deserve to be on this list, because this is an elite list of wrestling matches. And man, like, off the top of my head, this was a crazy year. Every year we go to way too many wrestling events. You have, I don't want to say drag me, but this year, down to the wire, you were like, we need to go to Revolution. We're going, like, 2 or 3 days before the event. We also went to WrestleMania. We went to countless Dynamites and Collisions and WWE taping, I'm sure. Like, we've been to quite a lot of wrestling. You went to SummerSlam as well. We didn't go to All In, but we went to Revolution and Full Gear, and we were all over the place. Demand Lucha in Toronto. We've been to all the wrestling. And if you've never been to a wrestling show and you're a wrestling fan, I just advise you, not only as a wrestling fan, but just as a friend, you got to do it once. Because sometimes I talk to some listeners and wrestling friends who never been, and their excuse is, I don't have anyone to go with. Go by yourself, buy a ticket, and because you'll be sitting next to people who love this shit just as much as you are. So I had this conversation just a little while ago with someone who said they've been watching wrestling longer than I've been alive, and that they had never been to a show. And I said, it sounds like you like wrestling. I think you owe it to yourself to go to even a house show.
Yeah.
So in 2025, anyone out there who's like, oh, I should go to see a show, go to a show. Make it worthwhile. Even if your partner or your friends don't like it, go on your own, and you'll still enjoy it. Trust me.
Absolutely. So the way the voting works with this, we put up a short list of, I think it was 30 matches I put up this year.
Wow.
And we put this on our Patreon, put it on our Facebook group, Twitter, and Blue Sky. And we've had many people voting in their top 10. And we grade it. You get 10 points for whatever you place in first place, all the way down to 1 point for what you put in 10th place. Now, this is Braden and my show, so our points are worth double. Ooh. And we allow ourselves like one shift maybe if we, because it is our list at the end of the day. And I'll give the match credit that we kind of maybe vetoed, is that the right word, or just we personally just preferred a match over this. So it was very close between these two matches, and in 11th place this year, the honorable mention award goes to Will Ospreay versus Michael Oku from Rev Pro.
Ooh, right. Yes. A lot of people were very, very high on this match. It was Rev Pro, an indie match, possibly the best indie match of all time, arguably. But if we were to just do best match of 2024 with all these votes from all you people, it might just be the best of Will Ospreay in 2024, because this guy is a machine. This guy is not human when it came to wrestling this year. Like, majority of the best matches this year were with Will Ospreay. And I don't think we wanted to we wanted to make it a little, different and spread things out between different companies and different people. So that match was incredible, but I personally did not vote it in my top 10.
I didn't either. I mean, this is crazy. We're talking about a year where a 6-star match, as voted by Dave Meltzer, did not make our top 10. Nothing against this match. It's incredible. 9.23 on Cage match. However, we want to kind of vary things up a bit. And there was a match that we personally maybe enjoyed a bit more. And trust us, we're going to be talking a lot about Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
And Michael Oku, your day is coming. Well.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I do notice that a lot of people love that match, and we watched it. I've watched it, I think, like twice this year, just because we did cover it, I think, or did we cover the first one from 2023? Right, this was a rematch of their 2023 match. Both matches incredible. Is it 6 stars? I'm not quite sure about that. I didn't put it in my top 10 because of a lot of other things hit me in the feels and with the crazy wrestling. So as much as that match is awesome, I feel like the Brits may love it more because it's 2 Brits. Maybe you were there at the Rev Pro, makes it even more special. Not knocking the match whatsoever, but I did not put it in my top 10. However, I hope we will be talking about Michael Oku a bit more in 2025 because that guy is definitely a star on the rise that we will sure to be talking to. And wrestling fans, once they get their eyes on that guy, I'm sure will have a blow up very soon. I mean, Ospreay's got the Ospreay touch, not even just himself, but this year, you could say he helped get his other buddies over, including Kyle Fletcher, who has kind of been in the shadow of Will Ospreay, even so that was the story this year with him kind of splitting from Ospreay and everything. Like, Ospreay vouched for this guy, and this guy gets a push, and now all of a sudden people are talking about how maybe Kyle Fletcher is one of the best wrestlers in the world. So if Ospreay co-signs you, it's a pretty big deal, and it kind of goes forward, right? Like you had people co-signing Ospreay when he was up and coming, and like Okada and Kenny Omega and all that. So the wrestlers who pay it forward, it seems to work. I like. So no disrespect to Oku, because he's a legend for sure already, but
absolutely.
But we got to talk about the top 10 that made this list. We'll talk about some honorable mentions, I'm sure, throughout this show and part 2. But yeah.
So it's time. Let's see what came in 10th place.
Well, also, Davie, you gave me the list, but you did not tell me what numbers or what order these came in. So you gave me the list of matches to watch today for this podcast, but I am not sure which order they are in. So
yeah. I can filibuster a bit if you need to find your notes for which match is which.
Okay.
But we are starting the 10th best match of 2024. Willow Nightingale versus Chris Statlander in a Chicago street fight from the 7th of September, 2024, the Now Arena, Hoffman Estates, Illinois. It's all out.
Yeah, this match was awesome. I think Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander were two of my top picks for women wrestlers of the year. And I think it's because of this match. Not only this match, because they both had some bangers, both fighting Mercedes this year and having standout matches with her, but the feud between these two, I think, really culminated with this big matchup between them, and then adding the street fight stipulation as well. So talking about like up and coming wrestlers that will have their time in the sun, I think these two will have even bigger 2025. And I know that like they're besties and all that kind of stuff. This one kind of bit of a sleeper hit. I knew going into it like, hey, this could be pretty good, but I've actually watched this match quite a few times, and I think that goes to tell how much I love a match. I'm not sure about you or anyone listening, but like I've talked about this before. Like if you love a match so much, there's the rewatch factor on it is very strong, and this one is definitely strong because these two women killed each other in this match.
Now, I think you got to give credit. Like these two women were coming out here following Will Ospreay versus Pac in a match where any other year could potentially be match of the year. These women are coming out following that, and boy, do they live up to it and exceed expectations here. I think the street fight gimmick just worked so well, just as a complete change of pace from what we'd seen before it. Both women come out wearing kind of street gear, not their regular wrestling gear here. Statlander pulls out a chair with New Jack written on it, a New Jack tribute here.
Yeah, was this Stokely? This was Stokely's work for sure.
Yeah.
Rip New Jack on the chair. Also Stokely wearing the movie Belly, which I'm sure will be a future review. The Belly soundtrack in Japanese as a t-shirt for Stokely's entrance here. Ridiculous fit. Also love Statlander having to lift Stokely onto the steps whenever they made their entrance. Was a little fun gag that they would do. And then Willow coming out with like the braids, almost like these like nurse pants on, because she knew things were going to get messy in this match. I thought they wore the right street fight attire for this.
Willow having already kind of made a name for herself with those like rampage street fights, tag matches she's been having.
Yeah, I'd say that's a big calling card of AEW. Is like everyone always says like the women's division is iffy in AEW, and that like the NXT women's division is the best, etc. But you know, AEW's had these women street fights quite a few times, and I'd say all of them are pretty fun. And this one might be my favorite of all of them.
So we open with a big pounce from Willow, followed by the cannonball in the corner. They're fighting on the apron, and Statlander teases a suplex off of it. Statlander then grabs the steel chair and smacks Willow in the back, and then power bombs her through the announce table. This is all in like the first couple of minutes of this match.
Crazy.
Stat then sets Willow up on another table and hits a swanton from the top to the floor, but Willow just gets out the way. But you see on the replay here, she rolls out the way, but the foot of Statlander still just cracks her in the back of the head with speed. So both taking a pretty nasty bump here. Statlander crashing through the table, but the heel catching Willow.
Yeah, like the holy shit chants ring out, and it's a holy shit from me yelling at this because like I've seen this match a few times now, but I don't know how Willow got up from this. Like she connects with her foot, nails Willow on the back of the head, sending her face first into the ground, and she still manages to get up. The ref was checking on her. Commentary, Tony Schiavone's going off about like, whoa, she rolled out of the way, and Excalibur's like, I don't know, did she? Because like she looks like it really hurt, but Willow got up right away. That looked so painful.
There's then a huge pounce from Willow to Statlander, sending her through the barricade. Now, I know you in particular are pretty sick of these barricade spots, but the pounce through it rather than the spear, this just looked awesome, I thought.
Yeah, Willow does the spear pretty well, and sending Stat just flying through these barricades.
There's then a clothesline from Willow on the ramp. They're fighting up the ramp here. Stokely brings out a trash can and starts whacking Willow with it. And then Willow pulls out 3 light tubes that have been taped together and smashes it over the head of Statlander, who is now bleeding. I don't think anyone was expecting to see light tubes in this match.
Yeah, again, like WWE, you know, if the women have like sort of a no DQ or a hardcore match, it's usually these kendo sticks and everything. But here you have Statlander pull out a barbed wire bat only to be outdone by light tubes, which was pretty insane. And these things just shatter everywhere. Now, I don't know about gimmick light tubes and all that, but like they continue to fight and get up while there's just shards of all this stuff everywhere on this entrance ramp. Pretty insane spot.
Willow then scares off Stokely, so he's now gone and turns around and gets hit by the spear from Statlander, which sends them off the stage and crashing through a bunch of tables on the floor. Huge reaction here. Great spot.
Yeah, like I said, the crowd are really into these two, but you could see right away Stat is like, hey, are you okay? And they're like, yeah. Willow's like, yeah, I'm fine, but nutso spot.
Statlander then brings Willow back to the ring and slams Willow, but Willow just roars and gets right back up. It's kind of the Ishii no-sell here. Both fall to the outside, and Willow grabs a chain, and Statlander grabs a black velvet bag. We know what's usually in these things. Willow's wrapping her fist with the chain, and Statlander's mocking her. Remember, these two were best friends, and she's like, you're not going to use that against me. And, well, Willow does. She starts punching her in the head, grinding her face with the chain, and biting the open wound. So now Chris is just bleeding. Statlander then grabs the velvet bag and pulls thumbtacks all over the ring. Stat goes for her axe kick, but Willow gets out the way, and Statlander just drops into the splits onto these thumbtacks, something I don't think I've ever seen before.
Yeah, lots of different things go through my head when I saw this. Like, first of all, being thrown onto thumbtacks. Second of all, doing the splits onto thumbtacks. Yeah, wow. Do the math there. Her legs are open wide, and her crotch is just sent into these thumbtacks. That's a gnarly ass spot. Like box into the tax spot is just insane. Love this and screamed when I first saw this. Like, oh my God, who okays this? Like, who came up with this idea? You sickos that you're like, hey, what if I did the splits into the thumbtacks? Like, do you know what those will pierce your skin? Oh.
There's then a Death Valley driver from Willow. They're fighting on the top rope, and Statlander manages to get the better of Willow, hitting an avalanche Spanish fly. Statlander then picks up the chain and hits the discus lariat, and then ties the chain around Willow's wrist and her own. So now they're joined together. She turns around. Willow hits her with the spine buster. Statlander comes back and hits the Saturday Night Fever, the tombstone, and then wraps the chain around the face of Willow and starts wrenching back. It's in her mouth, it's around her neck, and eventually, in 14 minutes, 57 seconds, the ref calls off the match, and Chris Statlander is your winner.
Yes, Saturday Night Delight. I love this match. You said it's like 14 minutes, just shy of 15 minutes, but it's just balls to the wall, like chaotic from the get-go. They start with like in the ring, but then they leave, they go up, they fight through the up the ramp and everything with all the weapons, and then they end up back in the ring, and that's when it kind of goes into like the next gear. So it's so much fun. It's just chaotic with all the light tubes and the thumbtacks and very creative. Like I said, like almost a calling card of AEW is the women's street fight. But here they did so many things that like you wouldn't see women do in a lot of wrestling rings. So I give them all the praise for this. Willow and Chris Statlander are two of my favorite characters to watch in AEW. And here they just went out and, like you said, this was right after they had to follow Ospreay and Pac, who just went crazy, I'm sure, for 20 minutes doing all sorts of flippy stuff. And yet they had the crowd like in the palm of their hands here, especially when they did the light tubes and the spear off the top. The crowd woke up like, oh, wait a second, we need to be here. We need to support these women. And they followed for the rest of it. And they were just like screaming in horror by the time Statlander did that splits onto the thumbtacks, as all of us did while watching. So yeah, this is a classic for me. Like this is just 15 minutes of these two women beating the ever-loving shit out of each other. And think about it, they're friends. They're like best friends. And they just really wanted to go out there and make each other bleed. And I was very entertained by it.
Yeah, I think it's so much fun. I think it's the perfect length as well for this match. The first half reminds me of Brock versus Goldberg from WrestleMania 33, where it's just explosive and just power moves and spears through barricades and crash, just like this absolute car crash. And then by the end, it's like Cactus Jack versus Triple H. Like it's, I just think it's such a fun match, and it's got so much rewatchability, and it's one you would show anyone who is like, oh, don't they just get like, you know, bikini models to prance about in wrestling? Like, no, these women are killing each other here. It's so enjoyable. I just think, you know, not every match needs to go 20 plus minutes. Like you can tell a great story in under 15 easily. And these two women just so achieved it. They had the crowd in the palm of their hands. My one issue, and knowing where we're going for the next like 3 months,
right?
You have Statlander win this match, and then she picks up Willow, shakes her hand, squashes the beef, hugs, and she's a babyface and can go on and face Mercedes Moné. That was just one of the most baffling things for me of 2024. Like, yeah, we squashed our beef, we killed each other, I won. Let's move on. I'm sorry. Like that would have been perfect, but yeah. Apart from that, like, just a fantastic match.
Yeah, I think later that night it was Mercedes taking on Hikaru Shida, which was nowhere near the level of this match. And again, Willow and Stat have had some awesome matches with Mercedes in 2024, but I think the only one that maybe comes close to this one might be Stat rematch at World's End. Like that one really got up there for me. But like hot take here. This may be one of my all-time favorite women's matches. Just like 15 minutes of them killing each other. And I'm not knocking any other woman who ever stepped in the squared circle. It's just these two clearly have something. They have chemistry. Like I said, they are friends. They know each other. They went out there and had a ball, I'm sure, killing each other. And like I said, I've actually on my own accord watched this back a few times. And that kind of proves something that like, when I like something that much, I tend to go back and rewatch it. And this one is like, will be added to my list of showing people. You said like showing people who are like, oh, women's wrestling. What is women's wrestling? It's like, yeah, here, watch this. It's so left field of what you kind of are just like used to in over the last few years of wrestling. Like, mind you, like women's wrestling evolution is real, and they have stepped up to the forefront of pro wrestling, and they are a draw, and they do have a lot of fans, and rightfully so. But this one just felt special. And I'm not saying it's because of all the weapons and stuff. It definitely adds to my enjoyment. But like, yeah, like when do you ever see women hitting each other with light tubes and stuff other than like, you know, a Davie GCW show or something? But I need to see this rematch down the line, hopefully for a title on the line. I don't think this is the end of these two ever facing one-on-one, but now that they're kind of friends again on screen, maybe they have a pairing or anything. But yeah, this is up there for one of my favorite women's matches. It's just so much fun and so wild that someone okayed for Statlander to do the splits into thumbtacks. That could have gone so wrong.
Oh yeah,
that could have been a very bad day. For
you ain't seeing a dude do that move.
No, never. No, we don't have this is a pun, but we don't have the balls to do that kind of spot.
Well, we do have the balls,
yeah.
and that's why. Yeah,
that's why we won't do that spot. But yeah, really, really love this match.
Okay. What would you give Statlander
Now,
versus
I don't
Willow
know if I go like a full 5-star, but like I said, the rewatchability on this is just so much fun. You mentioned Brock Goldberg. That's a good reference because I feel like that match is probably like less than 15 minutes long, but it's just like go nonstop, fully entertained. Whereas like you go watch a 40-minute match and it's like there's boring parts in it. Whereas this was like the best you got in 15 minutes and totally won over that crowd. And that is something special. So I might go 4.75 on this, but I'm calling it a classic, a certified classic for sure.
Yeah, I've said the same. 4.75. It's great. I always say that like emotional level, it doesn't have. Look, if this was like the main event for the title on a big show where these two have had like a kind of better story going into it, like it was a bit abrupt, the whole turn and everything. I think these two are capable of a 5-star match between them. It's just, you know, we're doing a list here and we're going to be comparing this to some other matches as well. But absolutely love this one and can totally see myself rewatching this one down the line.
Yeah. And like, I hope this leads to a bigger push for both of these. Like these two should be, what is it, fighting forever kind of thing. Like, hey, we'll always have each other because
the Steen Generico.
It's like they have that magic kind of thing going for them. And again, two of my favorite characters to watch. So love this match.
Well, it's time to see what placed number 9. And it's Mercedes Moné versus Hazuki.
Wow.
For the New Japan Strong Women's Championship at Strong Style Evolved on December 15th, 2024 at the Walter Pyramid on Long Beach, California.
Yes, great to see the women getting some representation here at Best Match Ever. We make sure we have our women show up on this show because they show up on all the shows and they absolutely kill it in wrestling. And Mercedes has had a bit of a hot and cold start since leaving WWE, but I'd say in the later half of 2024, she really finally found her groove, and especially in the ring. Like no one ever questioned her wrestling when it comes to that, but I think she really found it again in the last part of 2024. I mentioned the Statlander matches, the Willow match, and then this match too from the New Japan show that I actually like completely missed until it showed up on these lists that I was like, oh, I better watch this match. So I did watch it today.
I think this match shows because neither of us watched this match before this voting, and this shows just how many people voted for this one because it overcame. It wasn't in my list because I hadn't seen the match. It wasn't in your list, I imagine, because you hadn't seen the match. And yet it's still placed number 9, which shows how popular this match was, like coming in right towards the tail end of the year. And yeah, really killing it. So let's get into it. We have Hazuki knocks down Mercedes, kind of gets the first touch of the match. We have Mercedes coming back with a Rana. Now Hazuki's delivering a series of body slams and starts choking Mercedes in the ropes with her boot and starts rallying the crowd behind her. Delivers a series of face washes and running boots like Samoa Joe-esque here. Hazuki then catches Mercedes in the ropes and delivers a DDT, spiking her on the apron and following up with a tope suicida and another one, and then delivers a third. This crowd, which I have to say, it's not a packed venue, and I imagine a lot of these people are not familiar with Hazuki. They really start getting behind her at this point.
Yeah, I'd say like this is Strong Style Evolved. This is in California, right? And like it's not a high school gym, but it's not full. There's a lot of empty seats in this, and it's not the best looking venue for wrestling, I might add. But that being said, my eyes are like, hey, there's not that many people here. However, the people who are there wanted to be there and were really, really loud and supportive of both these women. So I got it. I like that in a crowd, because sometimes you see a full crowd that is just sitting on their hands. It's like, guys, you paid to be here. You're here. You don't have to be.
I think
these people really do it.
Valid criticism of New Japan is they don't shoot these venues well to hide empty seats.
Looks
like
bad.
AEW and WWE do all they can to like hide those empty seats, move people around to one side. But I remember some of those shows kind of coming out of the pandemic where you'd see someone climb to the top rope and no one would be behind them.
Yeah.
And I think this is a venue that, if it was packed, could actually look kind of cool. But unfortunately not. But they're really getting behind Hazuki here. So the ref starts to count, and Mercedes is doing her tease of the 20 count and gets in just after 19 and immediately gets hit by a senton from Hazuki. Mercedes kicks out, but immediately gets caught in a crossface, very similar to the Banks statement. And then Mercedes gets back into it. She licks her hand, flips off this crowd who are booing her, and just slaps Hazuki across the face. Now we get a slap fight. They're just both giving it to each other. And Mercedes locks in the Bank statement, which Hazuki counters in sort of modified Rings of Saturn here. And then Hazuki climbs up to the top and goes for her, like bombs away, senton, but Mercedes rolls out of the way, delivers a running Meteora in the corner, a Meteora off the top rope for a 2 count, and that's where Mercedes signals it's all over, but she gets booted in the head by Hazuki, followed by a code breaker off the second rope, and then this time Hazuki hits the senton, 1, 2, but Monet kicks out. There's then a diving code breaker off the top from Hazuki for a 2. She sets up for a brainbuster, but this gets countered into a backstabber for a 2 count by Monet. And the crowd get on the ref here because it really didn't look like a kick out. So they're chanting, this ref sucks. That was 3. There's a second backstabber, a third backstabber, and then a power bomb with the stack for a 2 count. And then Mercedes hoists up Hazuki, hits the Moneymaker, 1, 2, and Hazuki gets her foot on the ropes. Mercedes sets up for the Moneymaker again, which Hazuki counters into a cradle for a near fall. The crowd are just biting on everything at this point. And then Hazuki goes for a big boot. This gets caught, countered into the arm hook on the back, into the Moneymaker for the win in 26 minutes, 36 seconds. Mercedes Moné retains.
You know, when Sasha Banks left WWE and became Mercedes Moné, she basically said, like, hey, I love Japanese women's wrestling and I want to wrestle all the best there is to wrestle. And I think she was referring to stuff like this, like Hazuki here. I wasn't super familiar with. I think I've seen in some matches here or there, but definitely not on the level of this. And I was thoroughly surprised. Like, you know, I know Mercedes can bring it, but Hazuki was really like getting this crowd here behind her for some of these hope spots that so many people were just like cheering for every little like quick roll up. They were like really invested. You saw, again, not the most packed crowd, but the people that were there were like jumping out of their seats, like yelling at the ref and everything. So it was good to see that people like can get into something so deep and support someone like this. Like I thought that they had great back and forth, especially with some of those pinfall attempts where at some point I was like, hey, you know, is Hazuki actually going to take this title from her? I will say I don't like the Moneymaker because you said she wins, she hits the Moneymaker. I'm like, I don't know, did she? Because I don't think she can hit that move. It's like,
yeah, the one she finished with here didn't have the spin, did it?
It didn't have anything. It didn't. That move is just shit. Sorry, it doesn't work. Imagine you watch the 2 people in the street fighting and someone tried to hit this move. You'd look like an absolute dingus. Now, I know there's a lot of wrestling moves out there that if you tried to hit in a real fight, it wouldn't work. But this one specifically is just so this is like create a wrestler in SmackDown versus Raw 2008 or whatever year those, when you could make your own and you'd always make the most convoluted, ridiculous thing to end in like a face bash thing. That's the Moneymaker. But that aside, I really got into this match. And again, I think Mercedes is finding her stride And I think she just really is passionate about like fighting all the best women's wrestler. And I think this has brought a lot of attention to Hazuki now going into 2025. Like, I think people are going to be behind her and reference this match of like, hey, you know, did you see this one with them? So I wouldn't say it was my favorite. I didn't watch it until this, so I didn't put it on my top 10 list. But I don't know if I would have put it in my top 10 list, even though I've watched it now. I liked it, but I don't know if I'd go as high as I did with some of the other things this year.
Yeah, I somewhat agree. I really enjoyed the match. I thought everything apart from maybe the moneymaker was pretty great. And I don't think I've ever seen anything from Hazuki before. And I really got into her. I thought her stuff looked like very crisp and stiff, and really got this crowd behind her, had like a good connection with the crowd here. However, I didn't necessarily have that emotional connection to this match because I don't know the story behind it. If there is any story behind it, there wasn't much storytelling through the match, I didn't think. And although it was like I was biting on some of the near falls and things, I needed more context to get more out of this match, I thought. So technically everything I was watching was very, very good. But I'd have personally picked either of the Mercedes Chris Statlander matches.
Yeah, I would have.
But maybe that's because I follow that, and I'm familiar with Chris and that kind of thing.
I totally agree. I think I would have picked the Statlander Mercedes second match at World's End above this one, but still not knocking this one. Maybe I was just going into it a little cold with the story and everything, and if there even was a story for this, let alone that. But the wrestling was still pretty good. I might be called a hater, but I'm going to go 4 stars with this one.
I went 4.25 on it. Meltzer gave this 4.75 stars, and Cage Match has a 9.16. So
we love Uncle Meltzer, Uncle Dave, but isn't he funny sometimes where he'll be like, Mercedes and Hazuki went out there and put on a clinic. They wrestled for 30 minutes. They were killing each other. They outlasted everyone. 4.75. It's like, oh, okay. Same with Statlander and Willow. He's like, maybe one of the best women's matches ever in history of pay-per-view. 4.25. It's like, oh, okay, all right. He does not like to give those women that 5-star treatment. However, it brings me to my question for you. Mercedes, Sasha Banks, famously fought Bayley at TakeOver Brooklyn all those years ago, which some say is the best women's match of all time. I haven't watched that match in a very long time. I'm wondering if you watch that match in 2025, does that stand up to some of these matches that she's had in 2024 and 2025?
I'd say with the sound off, no. I think with the sound on that, I think that Brooklyn crowd was so. I think this was a pre AEW. I think NXT was your alternative, even though it was still WWE, and having 2 women go out there where people were really invested in this product, invested in these characters, that completely had the emotional stakes that are maybe lacking in a match like this for me. But with the sound off, I would say the stuff with Statlander recently, I'd say this match potentially is probably better. But I'm similar. I haven't watched that match for a long time. So maybe it is a lot better than I remember. But I do think it maybe won't age kind of as kindly. Maybe. Just
also like wrestling in general evolves, right? Like things that were so good back then that were groundbreaking become everyday things in wrestling today, right? Like
it was just groundbreaking to have a women's match be like good,
you
know?
Exactly.
In WWE, right?
Exactly. So like, I know Mercedes got a lot of shit because we were giving her a lot of shit for 2024, but she really managed to turn it around. So dare I say, I'm kind of excited to see what she does in 2025. I think she'll turn things around, at least in the wrestling form, like deliver these dream matches and bangers of matches and help elevate other people that maybe we're not so familiar with, like a Hazuki in this case. So I still really liked it. Yeah,
I definitely think we're below the consensus here though, because a lot of our listeners voted high on this. On our best and worst of show, John Pollock said this was he thinks this was Mercedes' best match of the year. So, but yeah, good stuff. Well, let's now see what placed number 8. Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher from AEW Full Gear, 23rd of November, 2024, at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey.
Now, you said Prudential Center. You said Full Gear 2024. You said best matches of 2024. Davie, how are we not going to Big Boom AJ versus QT Marshall from that pay-per-view? Because I was sitting next to you. Other than the fact Big Justice gave me a big boom, you were turned on that. You were like, yo, they got this crowd buzzing for that match.
Braden, how much were you smoking? I was in the pub during that match.
Oh, you were? Oh, man. I think it was after the fact that you were like, hey, like that crowd wasn't very loud again until we got to this match, which was, I think, in the middle of the show where it was Ospreay and Fletcher. But I think I'm referring to my friend Jonah, who was sitting next to me the other side. He was not having any of us doing the booms. Shout out my friend Daniel. All day long at the Shrek water park, we were going down water slides, going boom, boom, and all that shit. And then at the end of it, he was like, look at this. Like, these people are cheering for this. And it wasn't up until Ospreay's entrance that the crowd like came back alive and were cheering and going nuts. And then we got into this match, and I was really looking forward to this. You know, Fletcher coming out of the shadows of Ospreay is always a good story when it's like the master and the student kind of thing. And, you know, Ospreay had Fletcher under his wing with the United Empire. And even if you didn't follow that story before AEW, you got the gist of everything, because it was like, hey, this guy, I let him live with me for a little bit. I helped train him. I vouched for him. His partner got injured, and I said, well, you still got to have him on TV and you still got to push him. And then he did, and he started getting better and better. And like now going into 2025, like I think Fletcher is going to have even more incredible year, but I think this is the match that sets that off for him. Like when we look back at Kyle Fletcher, which I'm sure, again, the 2025 will be good for him, I think this will be the match that started this. Like, we knew he was good. We knew he was pretty good. He kills it in his Dynamite matches. Whenever he's on TV, he's always stealing the show. But I think this is the match that's like, oh, wait a second. He's not in Ospreay's shadow anymore.
He definitely evolved, because even going into this match, I was kind of a bit like, yeah, well, we already have a Will Ospreay. Why do we need another one?
Right.
And I think we saw a transformation, obviously physically, like he beefed up, he cut his hair, which was much needed. You know, stopped wearing the long trunks, wore the short trunks, and but here just proved himself as his own man as well in a hell of a match. And Will Ospreay is just, you know, he's still new to AEW, but and really a lot of people you'd be going, he really shouldn't be losing this much.
Right.
It doesn't matter with Ospreay. He's just so over with this crowd. And I think he did need to lose this match against Fletcher to really put Fletcher on the map.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Ospreay, again, Tony can thank Big Boom and the Rizzler for the house, but Ospreay was the main attraction. Like, he is the star of AEW in 2024 and going into 2025. We've been to numerous shows. We hear the reaction. You watch it on TV, you hear his reaction. Like, he is the draw of AEW in the last little while. And here he is facing his pupil, his student, and he's got a lot to prove. And I think this match really did prove that for him. And then, like, they rematched this at World's End. Now, we were at Full Gear. Like, I've watched both these matches back on TV, and like, they're both fucking sick. And it was kind of hard for me to choose. And then I was like, well, I was at this one. I guess I'll pick this one. But you mentioned we just did the best and worst show. Our good friend Wei Ting picked this match as his best match of 2024. Yeah. And there's a reason why. It's pretty damn good.
So Kyle comes out wearing a crown as the proto star. Ospreay, a bit of a different entrance here, not wearing the bright colors. He's in his black Punisher gear.
He's angry.
Yeah,
he's mad. His friend turned on him, right? Yeah, of course.
They don't waste any time. They're trading blows right away. Just the speed between these two immediately is crazy. Ospreay delivers a Rana in the ring and then a Rana on the floor. But Kyle comes back with a brainbuster on the floor and now starts targeting the neck of Will Ospreay. He's applying a dragon sleeper. He's just doing all these moves, attacking the neck. Ospreay goes for a DDT, which he blocks and delivers a Michinoku driver, just dropping Will again on the neck. Ospreay sends Kyle to the floor and hits the beautiful Sky Twister press. And Ospreay's getting back into it. He's delivering Kawada kicks. Ospreay also has some of the best chops in the game. Like, these just sounded absolutely nasty.
I mean, Fletcher's no slouch either, right? Like, he's crushing Will's chest with these two. He's learned from the best.
And then in the ultimate dickhead moment here, Ospreay puts his hands behind his back. What is it? The like Bushido, the spirit of the warrior,
right,
where you're just like, yeah, bring it on, give it to me. And Kyle teases that he's going to chop him and just kicks him right in the face.
Oh, great.
So this angers Ospreay, hits him with the cheeky Nando's in the corner, and then goes to the Os cutter, but this gets countered into a cutter from Fletcher, followed by this huge sit-out last ride. And I don't think, because he's always been quite skinny, like, we haven't really realized like quite how tall Fletcher is, but I think he's like 6'5", 6'6", and the height he gets on this last ride is crazy. They then start teasing the tombstone on the apron, and they do the, like, you know, the counter of the tombstone. They both fall off the apron, but they still complete it with Ospreay hitting the tombstone on the floor. Now they're both on the floor here. Ospreay gets the ring first, and Kyle just gets in after the 9 count, but Ospreay immediately hits him with his like springboard coast to coast drop kick.
This is another one.
I love when he does this.
It's like it's like in a real fight. Like, the guy is just scrambling to get into the ring, and Ospreay is already like on you like a hawk, like comes in and drop kicks you in the face. It's such a good move.
He follows this up with a crazy spiral tap, which looked beautiful. And then the Spanish fly, and then the hidden blade to the face of Fletcher. I guess not so hidden. Ospreay then hits the Styles Clash, but Fletcher kicks out. There's another hidden blade, 1, 2, and Fletcher kicks out right at the last millisecond here. And then Ospreay, just pissed off, just starts. This was kind of Killer Coda style, just punching in the face, just stiff punches right to the mush. And then Ospreay teases the Tiger Driver on the apron, but Fletcher counters it, gets him set up, and jumps off the apron with a tombstone onto the ring steps.
We shrieked. We screamed at this.
Oh, like, you see the looks of people in the crowd, just like, I felt sick from watching this move. The thud it made.
I remember we were screaming
in the best way, because we know they're okay coming out of it.
I remember we were all putting our hands around each other's shoulders, like, "What? Did this guy just murder him? Like, what?" I think I have a video of it too.
It was
where
right
I was
in front of us as well.
Yeah, I was trying to film it, but we were like screaming. I watched it back. You just hear us screaming because a tombstone off the apron. Okay, pretty gnarly, but a tombstone off the apron onto the steps right there is nasty work, bro. Crazy.
Like, the knees alone, it's fucked. But like, the head and the margin for error here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, terrifying.
And if that wasn't enough, he's like, let me double tap in the ring. Oh, boy.
For me, it was this move that put it above the World's End match. Like,
I think
this
so
is
too.
What
Yeah.
separates it. It was just such a like visceral reaction from everyone. As I felt sick to the stomach watching this move, and I kind of like that.
You know what? You're right, because when I thought back, okay, wait, what's differentiates the World's End one is Ospreay's trying to get his win back, but they also go back to the steps. They try to tease that they're going to do this spot again, and I'm like, oh, that's because it happened in this one. So I do give this match the edge as well.
Fletcher then hits the Grimstone, which is like his version of the Tiger Driver.
The Gonzo Bomb, essentially. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, this guy already killed him, and then he gets him in the ring and hits the Grimstone, which is like the power bomb Styles Clash into the, like, it's AJ Styles used to do this too. It's disgusting.
Just
this
a neck drop
fucking
here.
Nuts.
Ospreay just kicks out. I don't know how. Fletcher then sets up again, but Ospreay tries to hook him for a pin with like his last ounce of breath here. Ospreay then goes for the hidden blade, but he's just got nothing. I love this bit.
Yeah.
It's like the hidden blade to the front, but it was like the weakest thing.
And Fletcher's like, what? Like, dusts it off like, you ain't got shit.
Just absorbs it. He knows he's winning now. He breaks the right arm of Will over his shoulder. He breaks the left arm of Will over his shoulder and just boots him in the face, sets him up in the corner, and brain buster. The brain buster to the top turnbuckle. And 1, 2, 3. Kyle Fletcher defeats Will Ospreay in 24 minutes, 13 seconds.
Yeah, and one hell of a match. I mean, the story goes is Fletcher turns on Ospreay, so Ospreay is obviously upset, the student-teacher kind of thing, and they acted like it. You know, there wasn't any rest holds and headlocks in this match. This was just straight up like, I'm going to give you everything I got because I can't afford not to. And that was the story going into this. Again, these two are friends in real life, so there must be something about friends just really wanting to kill each other when that bell rings, because boy, did they do that here. I have not actually watched this back since watching it live, but I did put it in my top 10 because I just thought it was brutal, especially going back to that tombstone. But they have such good chemistry that I would probably watch this match like a few more times. And I think we will get it again in 2025 because I think it's 1-1 if you look at pay-per-view wins and losses here. It's 1-1. So this is crazy. This definitely made Fletcher for me. Like all the fleshlights, isn't that what he calls his group? He might need to work on that. But all the fleshlights out there were definitely like, oh shit, he beat Ospreay. Like Ospreay sold that Generico brainbuster like death. He just laid out like completely dead. And Fletcher is like shit-eating grin while he pins him. Like, I know I'm beating him right now, which is just like movie magic. Like this villain knew he beat him before he even beat him. That hidden blade spot, he's like, I know I beat you already. And it's good. It's good drama. I couldn't wait to see them rematch at World's End because it's like, hey, he beat you now. And now it's the 1-1 where again, I hope we go to this again, and I know we will, but this is great. You said it's like 20 something minutes of just carnage of these guys killing each other. I love Don Callis as well on commentary. He's bigging up Fletcher, of course. He's like, if I had a son, I wish he looked like Kyle Fletcher. But he's also like, hey, I might not be on Will Ospreay's team anymore. He might not be in my family, but I'm not gonna sit here and say he's not a good athlete, because Don is also hyping up some of the moves that Ospreay is doing too. So I do think Don elevates both the match and Fletcher and Ospreay in this. But this is great. I really loved watching this back today because it flew by. It doesn't feel like 20 minutes. It feels like 5 minutes. It's just craziness.
It almost feels like a death match, even though there's no weapons in it, just because how sick some of the spots make you feel. And just absolutely brutal. I think just great booking as well in putting over Kyle Fletcher as this like main eventer now. He's someone you could viably put the world title on in the next year, where I wouldn't have said that a couple of months ago. And as we said, Ospreay is so good, so over that it doesn't hurt him at all. It's pretty much perfect, this match.
Yeah, dare I say, like, I think some dream fantasy booking would have Ospreay win the world title in 2025. Fletcher might be the one to take it from him. That could be something that a bit of a swerve there. But yeah, this was up there in one of my favorite matches this year. We were there live, which adds to it, but watching it back today, even on TV, I was like, yeah, this is pretty crazy. So loved it.
For me, the first very easy 5 stars on the list.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there, good sir, because this is an easy 5 stars for me. Awesome. And the fact that I'm like wanting to see them wrestle again and again and again, which you can't say for a lot of people. Even when you watch a 5-star classic, you're like, all right, it's done. It's over with. Now I'm like, ooh, where can we, like, what sick shit can these guys do to each other the next time they wrestle? But yeah, loved it.
Dave Meltzer gave this 5.25 stars.
Wow.
And Cage Match 9.14.
Wow.
Well, let's now see what placed number 7. And it is Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. from February 11th, 2024 at New Japan, The New Beginning at the Edion Arena in Osaka, Japan.
Yeah. Everyone's going to be talking about Will Ospreay. Everyone is talking about Ospreay having the best year of his career every year. He's been wrestling just because he's got so many matches of the year candidates under his belt. When it makes you forget about how damn good the Dragon truly is, because Bryan Danielson had one of the best years. He says it was his last year in full-time competition, which I guess is his cheeky way of saying, yeah, I'm still going to wrestle, but I'll pick my spots a bit more. Hopefully that's the case. I don't know if we'll see him wrestle in a ring in 2025, but my fingers are crossed. But he is one of the best to ever fucking do it. And this is a dream rematch from their match at Wrestle Dream. And even though that one is really, really good, I think this one has the edge over that. It's just two technical wrestlers fighting, and it's exactly what it's like, okay, what would a match between these two guys look like? I don't know, probably like 100 different submission moves in it. They probably did about 105 different submission moves in this match. So it lived up to the hype and some.
So if you remember, the last one ended, they were doing like, who is the best technical wrestler? And they're wrestling away, but Bryan wins with the Busaiku knee with a striking move. That match from Wrestle Dream came number 4 on our list last year. So ranked higher than this match, but is that because the caliber of the other matches are higher? I don't know.
That's right.
But yeah, I hear, is it on this match where the commentators describe Zack Sabre Jr. as a jazz musician? And I just love that. Like, he knows all these submissions, but doesn't know how he's going to play them, like how he's going to use them until he's in the ring, and just seamlessly goes from one to the other. But Bryan Danielson is a jazz musician as well. So it's like the two of them working together. I want to know, like, what was this conversation before going out there? How much was it? All right, we've got X amount of time. What's the finish? And then we'll just figure it out when we're in there, because they're both so good. And I feel you almost can't talk through some of these things. It's just that the knowledge of the body that both have and how everything moves and how to get out of everything. It's so, like, I've just written for like the whole first part of this match, just grapple fuck. And that's how it feels.
It totally
right?
is. Yeah. It's like a human chess match or something. It's like both guys are your Gotch or your Johnny Saint level, like technical. They know everything about the human body and where it bends and what this does and what that does. And they're both matched that way. So both of them are trying to do all these different escapes. Shout out World of Sport. It's like, it's all sorts of like, okay, he's got me in a leg lock. Well, I have my arms free, so I'm going to grab his head and then bend it back. And then he's going to grab my fingers. And it was just so much of like slick transitions between the two, just showing off.
It's
essentially
beautiful.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
so like captivating to watch, I think.
Yeah.
So,
I got a shout out to my buddy Daniel as well, who randomly booked a trip to Japan and then found out that this show was happening while he was there. So he ended up going to this. If I'm not mistaken, this is also the last Ospreay match, which had like the weird cage match to open the show.
Yeah.
And I remember him just raving about this one. And I was like, dude, you're so lucky you just ran on a whim. We're like, oh, these guys are wrestling. I'm going to go see it. And I was like, you got to see this match? I'm like, crazy. One of the best matches this year.
So they're both twisting and rolling around with wrist locks. There's this beautiful bit where Sabre gets sent into the corner, but kicks off the pad, and like springing off the pad, just manages to lock in a guillotine Kimura. Like, so good. And Danielson somehow counters this into a sharpshooter, like a modified sharpshooter on the mat. He's then setting up for the Muda lock, which gets countered into a side headlock, whilst Danielson has a cravat. So Zach has to break the hold. There's a lot of like one person got to move in and the other person grabs a move, which therefore breaks it. Just so good. There's then a straitjacket hold from Danielson, which Sabre counters by just sliding through his legs and flipping him over. And then Danielson, with the first strike of the match, kicks the leg of Zach. So now Zach is like limping around. Danielson tries to set up for the Romero special, and Danielson's telling him, he's like, go on, grab the ropes. You'll buy the ropes. Zach just goes, I don't need the fucking ropes.
Yeah, great spot.
Awesome.
Howled at this, yeah.
Danielson is then attacking Saber's leg in the ropes, where eventually the ref has to pull him off and gets booed by this crowd. There's then a dragon screw from Danielson, and Danielson traps the leg and delivers a German suplex, and now locks in the Romero special. Great sequence. There's then a series of snapmares. Zack takes Bryan down and delivers his neck crank twisting move. Running drop kicks in the corner from Bryan, and then gets just caught out of nowhere with the Cobra twist by Zack. And now they're both on the mat. Both have their legs locked in a sort of knee bar as they're delivering stiff slaps across each other's face. This is the time where Danielson just loved spitting at people. So he spits at Zack. Zack slaps him some more. So Danielson spits him again and kicks Zack in the face. Now they're just trading kicks, like the soles of their boots to each other's face. Now they're back on their feet. They're running the apron, but still kicking each other in the face as they're coming back. And Zack goes to the floor, and Danielson comes off the apron with a flying knee and then rolls Zack into the ring, jumps off the top for his headbutt, but gets caught in the triangle with the elbows from Zack to the crown of the head. And now Zack's bending both his arms back, transitions to a figure four leg lock, but Danielson gets to the ropes. And that's where the ref calls that 25 minutes has passed. I believe they've already passed their first match from Wrestle Dream. Now they're both on the top rope and trading headbutts. Danielson goes for cattle mutilation, but Zack flips out of it and goes for it of his own, but Danielson flips out. Saber hits a German, which Danielson lands on his feet for, and goes for a roundhouse, which gets ducked. And then Zack hits the Zack driver and catches him in a triangle. And now Bryan is getting out of that with just nasty forearm strikes to the face and the neck. And these are getting really mean, where the ref genuinely looks concerned for Zack as he's raining down with these elbows to the face. Danielson traps the wrists and does his classic stomps to the face and is just kicking away at Zack, bullying him. And Zack just says, bring it. Come on, bring more. Is that all you've got? So Bryan spits at him again, kicks him some more. Zack rolls through and goes to the European clutch, which gets countered into European clutch of Danielson's. It's counter for counter. There's jackknives with bridges, roll-ups, back and forth. A PK from Zack, followed by the Busaiku knee from Bryan. And now Bryan starts delivering the yes kicks to the chest. Zack goes for one as well. More trading roll-ups back and forth. And in 32 minutes, 46 seconds, Zack Sabre Jr. catches Bryan Danielson with a schoolboy for the win.
He used a wrestling hold to win the match. So he is the better technical wrestler. We've
not a submission though.
No, not a submission.
We still got the submission match to come.
Bryan Danielson will retire before he taps out to this guy. But yeah, what a match. We said it, all the different wrestling holds. Dean Malenko was just watching this in a corner in the dark somewhere, just oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen. It's just all these wrestling holds, submission holds. These guys aren't the biggest baddie wrestlers. If you lined up a bunch of wrestlers, the airport test, I don't know if these two would pass it. They just look like two blokes off the street. But when they are in their wrestling gear in the middle of a ring, you best know they could probably beat the shit out of all the bigger guys that look like wrestlers. All these holds are just awesome to see. The transitions is legit. I know he called himself magical and all that. What did he say in the Cruiserweight Classic? Harry Potter of wrestling or whatever, some weird bullshit. But yeah, I kind of see why you said that, because he is so doing these moves effortlessly, all these transitions, and Danielson and him are the best at it. So this is 20 something minutes. I feel
32.
They could have won another 30 and I'd still be raving about it. I'm just how many different wrestling holds they can actually do. Watching it today, I wanted to start taking note of all the different holds, and I gave up because I can't watch it like this. It's just every second was a different transition and different hold in certain scenes of it. So yeah, this is real graps, baby. This is real wrestling. I would like to see them in a shoot fight.
Yeah.
I would like to see them
It would
pay-per-view.
probably just look like
Just look like this, probably. Yeah. Just like, man, fantastic match. I've only watched it the one time when I first checked it out this year, and watching it today was definitely a treat. 5 stars easily from me. It was just so good. So good.
I was watching this with Graham yesterday, and he called it a pretzel match because both are just trying to tie each other up into pretzels, and they're intertwined with each other.
Yeah.
It's funny because, you know, I know John Pollock said this before, but when you try and note like a Lucha Brothers versus Young Bucks match, and there's just so much flippy and flying shit going on, and it's so quick and you can't keep up. I felt the same with this, just with grappling and submissions, just so beautifully done. And I think to being a kid, when like I used to think like, oh, when someone calls someone, oh, a great technical wrestler, it just means you're boring. Cool. You lock in a Boston Crab, like big whoop, you know?
Yeah.
But this is just technical wrestling at its finest. And I'd be intrigued to, you know, we say, what matches do you show people who don't really know wrestling? And I think we often say like TLC 2 is a fun match to show people.
Oh,
I would wonder what people would think of this, because it's just so, the smoothness of it is just ridiculous. It's really like dance, you know, like just the flow between the two of them it's sensational to watch.
Yeah, you know, it is interesting. Like if you show casual fans some of the classic wrestling matches, TLC 2 is the easily the number one. Like, hey, watch this, and they're like, what the hell is wrong with you? What is this? This is something like you understand like the art of wrestling when you watch something like this, because it's like these two clearly know what they're doing. And you know, we hate to use the word fake, but like this looks like these two tying each other up and shoot fighting and everything. So yeah, it's super entertaining. And
this is sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say this is what I wanted from Shibata Tanahashi.
Yeah.
You know, when it said 5-minute exhibition grappling match, like this, like give me this. Don't chop each other on the chest repeatedly. Like something like this, because this isn't gonna like fuck up your head, is it?
Yeah.
This kind of wrestling.
Yeah. It's just it's just wrestling. It's just like back and forth. And then to win with the schoolboy is also pretty funny. And Danielson after the match doesn't. So when Danielson beat him the first time, he tried to shake his hand, and Zach was like, "Nah, fuck off. You hit me with the Busaiku knee. We agreed this was a grappling match," and then doesn't shake his hand. So here, Zach right away goes over to him, offers the hand, and Danielson looks at him like, "You bitch," and then gets up and goes to walk away, and then turns around and goes, and shakes his hand, and the crowd lose it. So yeah, we need a rubber match.
We do.
One more time.
Yeah, easy 5 stars from me. Dave Meltzer gave this 5.5 stars. Cage Match has this at a 9.66.
Very, very high. In any other universe or year, like this is up there as one of the best matches. Not even this year, just awesome. You could rewatch this. I would like to think now. We both are not pro wrestlers in training, but I would like to think if you were training to be a pro wrestler, you might want to watch this match. Maybe once, twice, 200 times, something like that. Just like watch and study this, because this is real graps. This is the real shit right here. Love it.
Okay, well, it's time to see what polled number 6.
I'll ask you to pause for a second, because I have a little tradition here on best match ever, and that is to honor the worst before we get to our final match here, Davie, because I like to just wet my whistle a little of the worst shit I've watched this year. I got to throw out some matches that were bad. All right. Was there any that come to mind? Because I think we were on the same page of having our worst match of the year, Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso at WrestleMania. I think wrestling fans unanimously agree that might be the worst match we watched. So much that the Usos kid front row was even bored of their match at WrestleMania. So much that Lil Wayne fucking shit the bed on their entrance. I did not like this match whatsoever, and mainly think it was the worst because it was on the biggest stage.
Yeah.
At WrestleMania night 1. Was this in your list for worst match of the year?
It was, as I explained on the like best and worst of show, I tend to go most disappointing, and that's why I went with Takeshita Ricochet, because my expectations were so high with that. Whereas Usos, like, you know, they're not Takeshita and Ricochet. They're great, but as singles wrestlers, I wasn't expecting maybe a classic. But what I was expecting was a good WWE style match between these two brothers, and it really stunk up the joint. And I think they know it. I think they've spoken about it. At least one of them's spoken about it in interviews where it wasn't the match that they really wanted, and they were disappointed by it. But yeah, I'd put that one in there. As far as other kind of big stadium matches, Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker, I think that really disappointed as well. Britt's a funny one because I think she's had some great matches. I think she's had some awful matches. She's very hit and miss. But again, it's pro wrestling. It doesn't always have to be about the moves to be a good match. You know, Hogan versus Rock is one of the greatest matches of all time in some people's minds. It's not Danielson, Zack Sabre Jr. at all, but it doesn't need to be. And I feel Britt and Mercedes are both at one point stars enough where their star power should have carried them through that match. But you had all this weird stuff with Britt, you know, being away for a long time, coming back, getting suspended immediately. So she's not there for the build of this match. Mercedes, who's just been talking for months with bad promos, that's turning people off her. And then the match stunk as well. So I'd put that one in there.
No, I have that one in my list. Like, that one was just like the same thing, like Jimmy versus Jay. We were expecting like, hey, this could potentially be really, really good. It's the match they've wanted for a long time. And then it didn't hit whatsoever. Whereas Britt versus Mercedes was like, hey, Britt is like the flag bearer for the women's roster in AEW, the biggest women's star they've had up until that point, and then taking on Mercedes. And I just feel like the story going into it wasn't good. I thought that the match would deliver. When the bell rang, when we were watching it, I was like, okay, Mercedes, Britt, you're going to step up. You're going to show everyone wrong. And it's like, no, you didn't. It was just really boring, dragged out. It didn't hit whatsoever. So that one definitely comes to mind because of like the stage that it was on. I have a few others, but like those two specifically were your biggest shows of the year. And everyone came out of those talking like, oh, those matches sucked. Other ones I have, Kota Ibushi versus Marufuji. This is the one where Kota got hurt, right? And then decides to continue the match. I think it was like a 30-minute match, whereas like he should not have continued that match. It should not have happened. Realistically, those two greats, but in 2024, time was not on their side. It didn't hit whatsoever. Another one that seemed to be on people's lists were Billy Gunn versus Jay White.
Yeah.
That match really, really sucked.
I think that was the Dynamite before WrestleMania, because I'm pretty sure I watched that in a bar in New York
great
before
match
heading to Philadelphia. I was waiting for John Cena to show up, and I'm pretty sure I watched that match there, and it was pretty bad.
Sticking with AEW, I remember Jericho fought Hook probably like a million times this year, but I remember the Dynasty one just being like, why is this on this show? Jericho, please stop. And Hook, he didn't really improve this year because he was stuck in the Jericho vortex. Another one I didn't really like was Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley in the Dom in a shark cage one.
That finish, right? The messy finish, yeah.
Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax at Crown Jewel. And if you want to say just Crown Jewel was probably my least favorite show, it was my least favorite show because it had the OG bloodline versus the new bloodline thing that didn't really hit for me either. So that show completely just didn't hit. And then one that might be a sleeper hit that I know you didn't watch, Jinder Mahal, or formerly known as Jinder Mahal, Raj Desi taking on Bully Ray at Maple Leaf Wrestling Forged in Excellence, which I believe has the lowest rated match of 2024.
Wow.
So there you go. There was some bad stuff in wrestling too, but you know what? There was more good stuff than bad in 2024, wasn't there?
So let's go through it. In 10th place, Willow Nightingale versus Chris Statlander. In 9th place, Mercedes Moné versus Hazuki. In 8th place, Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher from Full Gear. In 6th place, Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. And to quote Michael Cole, we're not going to see a 5-star wrestling classic here, but, well, maybe we do. Because in 6th place is CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. Hell in a Cell, WWE Bad Blood, October 5th, 2024.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest feud in 2024 for sure had to be CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. I mean, Punk coming in at Survivor Series and then getting injured in the Rumble, his first match back on pay-per-view, and Drew is the one that injures him, made for great storytelling. And the fact that they did this feud for months with Punk not even being clear to wrestle, Punk sometimes not being there, I thought Drew really stepped up as being a main player in WWE, from being the chosen one to being released to being back to being like really elevated to like this guy could be champion at any point. He could lead the company at any point after something like this. I think he really evolved into the next level in the final form of Drew McIntyre. And CM Punk, I mean, he had a lot of doubters coming in. I mean, a lot of doubters he proved right when getting injured right away at the Royal Rumble, including myself, was like, oh shit, Aaron Rodgers here, just first match back gets injured, but managed to turn a negative into a positive by creating this story with Drew, and they ran with it and they made it so captivating that you couldn't wait to see them wrestle. And you know what? We were just talking about worst matches of the year. One of my least favorite matches of the year was these two in a strap match. That wasn't even a strap match. It was a touch the corners match, which was complete bullshit in my view. Like, I hated that match so much. But then it led to this match, which I think they finally nailed it. Like all those months of jabs back and forth with verbal jabs of trash talking to bracelets being thrown down his trunks and then put into his mouth or whatever he did with that. He kissed the bracelet at one point, to finally getting to the big payoff, blow-off match inside a Hell in a Cell. And dare I say, brought back the prestige, the violence of Hell in a Cell. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre with, as Michael Cole said, a 5-star classic.
Yeah, in a weird way, if Punk hadn't have got injured, you might have blown through this feud in 2 months and it would have never got to the level it potentially could have. So it could have potentially been a blessing in disguise. But yeah, this one of the best feuds of the year. Many of us voted. I think both of us, voted this feud of the year for 2024. And finally having a Hell in a Cell match that kind of, it's not just because it's at a pay-per-view called Hell in a Cell. It warrants this stipulation. WWE need to save this. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the Bad Blood pay-per-view. You can pull it out when you need it and when it's justified. And I think it was absolutely justified. And, you know, in interviews going into it, I think both were saying that they kind of want to restore the Hell in a Cell. And yeah, they absolutely did. Shall we go into it?
Absolutely.
So great line from Cole to start off with. It's not going to be cinema. It's going to be mutually assured destruction. Cinema being a new word in the wrestling vernacular, I think, in 2024, describing a lot of what WWE do as cinema.
Yeah, once you give a WWE fan a few words, they're going to take those and run them into the ground. Just like WWE takes something cool and makes it uncool. It's usually what wrestling fans do. It's like, oh, it was cinema. It's like, oh, yeah, I like that. Everything they do is cinema. Whereas Michael Cole kind of joking about that here.
It's usually, I feel it's a word to describe matches that are a lot of talking and less about the wrestling, you know, but it's story. So they square up. Drew makes the first punch. They're brawling right away. Punk goes to the outside, pulls out a table, and Drew smashes him in the back with a steel chair. Drew then gets out the toolbox, but Punk attacks him and grabs the wrench and drives it into the forehead of Drew. Drew then grabs the table and rips the leg off of it and starts choking Punk with the leg of the table. Punk comes back and slams Drew repeatedly on the kind of leg, the folded leg portion of the table. So right on the metal, onto the wood. and rolls to the outside, and Drew, out of nowhere, delivers the Claymore on the floor and then starts launching Punk headfirst into the cell, and now CM Punk is bleeding.
Yeah, very nasty. Like, again, blood in WWE at this point, right? Like, we've been saying, like, hey, should this be the match where we get a lot of blood? And like, it was.
Drew then drives the steps into the head of CM Punk and says, this is something I could have done without. He goes, I'm going to end your career and your wife is going to leave you. Like, well, why is AJ going to leave?
No, you know what? That adds that. Match? I like, let's, we need more of that in wrestling. Okay. Like, we need more shit talking like Drew McIntyre in 2024. I love it. If you have a wife and you're a wrestler, you better know that they are going to use that against you. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is.
It just reminded me, you know, all those like reality TV shows, like, American Idol, Britain's Got Talent, X Factor, those kind of things. When people say, I really want to win because I really want my family to be proud of me. It's as if, wait, so if you were runner up in this like huge national competition, your family are going to disown you?
They'd hate you.
They'd hate you. They're only going to be proud if you win this singing contest. And that's what it is here. If you lose, Punk, AJ Lee's leaving you and probably taking Larry as well.
Like he leaned into that with the story, right? With the bracelet and all that stuff. So I really got a kick out of that.
Well, this fires up Punk, who starts delivering his patented high knees in the corner, goes for the bulldog, but gets picked up by Drew, who teases, like dumping him to the outside through the table. But Punk fights back. He then grabs the wrench and goes up the top to kind of do a double axe with the wrench, but Drew takes him out. Goes to the Claymore, but Punk bails to the outside. And as Drew goes to picking up and drag him back into the ring, Punk wallops him with the toolbox. This is something that we've learned since was hard way and required several stitches because Drew is just bleeding a gusher here.
Yeah, I mean, this was the match turning point here. The TSN turning point of this match was a toolbox to the head a few times too, but I think it's that first one here that is just so brutal. Because
he's not looking, he just slams it behind him, doesn't he? And cracks him right on the dome.
It's very that would happen in some sort of big showdown or fight where you're just swinging wild and don't even look and you just smack the guy with it. I think a big part of this match, a big memorable part, is this toolbox, especially the photos afterwards of Drew and his stitches and everything. It's like, oh man, he really hit you with that toolbox. Was it a real toolbox though?
I mean,
real toolbox
tools. What do you mean?
Oh, I'm just making sure. You know, Punk has definitely spoke out about certain things and gimmicks in wrestling. Yeah. So I'm just making sure. Was it real?
So Punk follows up with 3 high knees in the corner and this time hits the bulldog, goes to the GTS, but Drew slips out. And now they're countering for counters here. And Punk eventually hits the GTS, but Drew rolls to the outside. And then Drew hits Punk with the Claymore, but Punk kicks out. Drew sets up for another Claymore, but this time Punk gets out the way and goes to lock in the sharpshooter. He can't quite. He's all sweaty and Drew's legs are big. He's stumbling around, but eventually does lock in the sharpshooter.
For a guy who really looks up to Bret Hart, he can't really do a good sharpshooter, can he? It took him a while. It took him a while to get it in there, but he eventually did get it in proper.
He's losing a lot of blood.
Yeah,
as well.
I'll give him a pass.
Drew's legs are fucking huge.
Yeah.
This is it's similar to the Bret Austin, just both bleeding away in this submission. Just the visual here looks awesome. They start trading blows. There's a roundhouse from Punk and both go down. And now they're on the top. They're fighting away. And Drew delivers a superplex off the top through the table on the floor. Great spot. Crowd erupt. There's then the go to sleep again, but Drew kicks out. And then McIntyre hits the white noise onto the steel steps, which just looks nasty. Punk comes back with the Anaconda Vice, and Drew reaches for the wrench and goes to smack Punk with it to break free, but Punk grabs the wrench and just starts smacking Drew with it, smacking him in the head. And then a callback from Clash at the Castle where Punk screwed Drew in his world title match. This time, Drew gets his own back by delivering a low blow, taking out Punk. And now Drew goes to the corner. Another great visual where he's just like exhausted, holding the ropes, holding himself up, a bloody mess, when he grabs a bag, a black velvet bag.
What could it be?
But it is not thumbtacks. It's beads.
Bees?
Beads.
Bees?
Beads. And he pours these beads, the friendship bracelet beads, all over Punk. The ref goes to wipe the blood away, and Drew just grabs the towel, throws it away, tells him to fuck off, goes for the Claymore, but misses. Punk gets out the way, and Drew lands right on the steps. For me, this is the spot of the match.
This might be scarier than the toolbox blindly thrown to his head. This just looks so painful, because not only are you landing like upside down on those steps on your back and your ass, but like those beads definitely don't hurt as much, but there's lots of them and you're like falling. The rest of your body is hitting it, but it's the corner of the steps that
it's the corner. You're landing like on your tailbone, your lower spine. Like you see the ref immediately like do the hand squeeze check. Like, are you okay?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, it looked bad. It looked so painful. This must have really fucking hurt.
But yeah, 2 matches on this list utilizing the steel steps. Maybe we need a TLS match again.
Tables, ladders, and stairs.
Yeah, never forget. Big Show, Eric Rowan.
Yeah, I forget.
Punk then wraps the chain around his knee, picks up a handful of friendship beads, shoves it in Drew's mouth, and delivers the go to sleep with the chain. And 1, 2, 3. CM Punk ends the feud in 31 minutes, 23 seconds.
Yeah, finally we get some blood in WWE. All it took was CM Punk to come back. Like, I feel like we've had some blood in WWE, but this was the biggest bloodbath in quite a long time. And, you know, like watching it the first time when the ref is giving the towel and they're like wiping their faces, like not just once, but like a few times. Like part of me is like the sicko being like, no. You don't wipe your blood away in this match. You want to keep it on your face because you worked so hard to get the juice out. You squeezed all that juice out for the visual, and here is the ref like wiping it away. But then it was like windshield wipers in a snowstorm because the blood just would come back again and again and again. So in a way, it's like, yeah, you do kind of need to see what you're doing here. So I can appreciate that they needed to do that. But you could tell that they were like, no, fuck off. I want this blood because the visual is what we're doing this for, right? But it was so good to see color in a WWE match, which I think just elevates it. And I'm not just a sicko, I swear. Like, it does elevate the violence and the meaning and the story and everything because these two like have pure hatred against each other. They're going back and forth, whether it's the toolbox or the steel steps. Like, they really went out and just were killing each other in this match. I'd say one of the best Drew matches, one of the best CM Punk matches for sure. And it almost like doesn't feel like it's WWE because of like how like violent it is. It's kind of weird that the weapons used is a toolbox and beads from a bracelet, but it works with the whole story and the feud and everything. So I'd say I've watched this once when it happened live, and then I watched it again today on rewatch. I think I liked it a little less watching it today than the first time, whereas I put this maybe at the tail end of my top 10 list. After watching a bunch of matches this week, I don't know if I would have still put this as high after my rewatch today. And I'm not knocking this match. I know some people are like, what is wrong with you? How could you say that? I think it's good. I just don't know if I think it was maybe as good as maybe some people are praising it to be. I'm sorry if I'm don't kill me. Don't shoot the messenger here. I'm just saying, I don't know if this lived up to maybe how it was in my head after the first viewing, but the first viewing is what matters because it's the first time you're like taking it in. So I still think it's an important match in WWE this year and in WWE history. I think it's one of the better matches in WWE this year.
I think it goes back to our conversation earlier about Bayley versus Bayley versus Sasha from Brooklyn in a way, because it's there's a novelty of, you don't see blood often in WWE, or I mean, it's been banned. You might get it accidentally and they try to wipe it away pretty quickly, but not to this level in WWE. You haven't seen the violence like this in WWE for a long time. And I think something WWE's done well this year is picking those moments of when to do these things. And it definitely, you watch it and it just felt so different from WWE on first watching this cell. It felt like something from, early 2000s, pre-2000s, which we haven't got for so long, where it kind of adds those extra points and stars to it in a way. And I think there's something where in AEW, we're desensitized to so much now. Think a couple of big moments of this year. This match, the pile driver to Randy Orton and the package pile driver to Cody Rhodes, they'd have meant nothing in AEW because we see blood, we see pile drivers all the time. So it's kind of hard you can't do it every match, and WWE should pick and choose when to do their things. Like now we've introduced blood. It's not to say that every pay-per-view we have blood, because then it doesn't mean anything, but saving it for these blood feuds makes it work. And, not everyone is watching it like back. It was similar with, Dustin versus Cody Rhodes from that first AEW show where that was raving about at the time. And then you go and watch back. It's still a great match, but it's maybe not as good as we remembered, because it's like, oh yeah, the blood added a lot to that, and we don't really see that much on TV and pay-per-views. So I am kind of with you. In my head, this was a 5-star match, and on rewatch I went 4.75.
Yeah. Me too.
It's still one of the best WWE matches of the year. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sounding like I sound like we're knocking it, but
no, not at all. But I'm with you. It doesn't maybe have that rewatchability, but not everyone's rewatching these matches as well.
That was totally it. I think in my mind I was like, oh, this was easily one of the best matches WWE put out this year. And then I watched it back and I was like, am I crazy? I thought Statlander and Willow killed each other more than these two did. I'm not shitting on it because I actually still really loved it, and it really helped. They needed to have this match because for me as a fan, the Punk run wasn't that good until we knew they had to deliver on this match, and they did. They really went violent. They had the blood. They had the big payoff match that we got out of it. And all the people saying, "Oh, Punk is washed," is like, no, he's not. He's still got it. He's just picking his spots. He can't do this every month. He's got to do it when you lead up to it. Like leading up to, like I hate to go and compare to like his AEW run, but I would say it wasn't as good as some of the big match, like the dog collar match where it got real bloody and everything.
The MJF match.
I think I'd put that up there above this one, but I still really, really like this. And I think this was an important comeback. It took a long time considering this was October and the dude returned to WWE in November of 2023. And it took this long to finally have a match where I went, oh, there you are. There's the CM Punk we love. It took a long time. And I was one of those let's see if he can deliver.
But
he did
I
with
think
this match.
You've got to look as well, is that's one of the things WWE has been great at in the last year. You don't need CM Punk on every show. AEW did, they like to get those eyes. You need CM Punk every show. And of course the injury is part of it. But I think injury aside, I don't think we'd have had a CM Punk match on every single pay-per-view of 2024. So they've got the star power now with so many people where you can have Cody main event a show and then miss the next one, and Roman can do that one, and then you can have a Punk match and that kind of thing. Like the wealth of top baby faces in WWE right now is pretty crazy to think of. Like just a few years ago, you're like, fuck, who is replacing Cena? There's no one here.
I almost think I prefer CM Punk's promos to his wrestling. I think I still like his wrestling, and I think 2025 he'll have some matches that we'll be talking about for sure. But I almost think he's better than anyone at the storytelling of promoting a match. Like his words will get you to want to watch. All the months of these two feuding was like, I have to watch what happens because they've been selling me on this match, and they did such a good job of this match. I really disliked the Four Corners match. I thought it was like, oh shit, like how did they mess this up? Where then they quickly turned to, well, this was all leading up to them in a Hell in a Cell, and they totally knocked it out the park. So I thought this was a fantastic match. But if I'm nitpicking on rewatch, I don't know if I would go as high on it as some of the other stuff I saw this year.
Well, there you have it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I see some people in the chat. Nathan says, I rewatched Sting's retirement match the most this year, so I think that's number 1 for me. Ospreay and Takeshita number 2, and Ospreay Danielson number 3, which had the best moments with the standoff into the hidden blade. Well, who knows? What will 5-1 be? That's
right. Maybe those matches will make the list. I don't know yet, but I'm sure they will.
Don't read ahead.
What was the we didn't go full 5 on this one? Was there ratings for this
we
one?
went 4.75. Meltzer went 5 stars, and Cage Match 9.43.
Like Meltzer giving a WWE match, he's been nicer in the last few years.
Yeah,
since maybe Vince leaving and stuff, he's been a lot more like, here, just take a 5.
Yeah.
I'm happy that he did, because like this was a good big match for WWE, and they really needed to deliver on it. So I'm happy that they did, but I wouldn't say it was my favorite or the best of 2024. But do you agree, disagree? At Poison Rana Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, all that stuff. Give us your favorite matches or worst matches. I would love to hear some of those as well. And if you agree or disagree, because this was just part 1, ladies and gentlemen. We have 5 more matches to go through and dissect, and a whole lot of honorable mentions, because on part 2 of Best Match Ever of the year, we do like to dive into honorable mentions and people's personal favorite matches and this and that. So can't wait to jump into that. I don't know 5-1. But I'm sure it'll be awesome, because all the wrestling this year was great, except those worst matches that we brought up. Those were not. but there you go. Best match of the year. Yeah, 2024.
All right, so join us Wednesday. This was a Happy New Year treat for you all, as we put this out for free. But if you want to know 5-1, you got to be a patron. You got to be a friend of the BDE and Poison Rana. So for just $5, you can subscribe. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows. You can go back in our back catalog and hear what our best matches of 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020 were. So many going right back, as well as retro movie reviews, wrestling reviews. We have a show called Was Next, where we go through every single episode of NXT starting in 2012. You can find all this over at patreon.com/poisonrana, and you'll get the link and the show for Best Match Ever 2024 Part 2.
Yeah, I mean, if you like this show, nerding out and dissecting wrestling and this and that, we do this with other topics and wrestlers. We've done Best Match Ever Bret Hart. We've done Best Match Ever Rey Mysterio Part 1 and 2 from WWE and outside WWE. We've done Best Match Ever Ric Flair and Steamboat. We've done Best Match Ever Masato Tanaka and Mike Awesome with Nate. We did Best Match Ever Sting this year with Nate. That was probably my favorite podcast, even though my microphone was off the whole time. That was probably my favorite show that we did this year with brother Nate. That was
a show fantastic. So good, we decided to drive to Sting's last.
Exactly, that's legit why. So like, yeah, we do Best Match Ever where we do different gimmicks. We've done Best Match Ever Hell in a Cell before the Punk and Drew one. We've done different like categories. Best Match Ever WrestleMania main events. We've done so many, and one day we'll compile all the winners of these and find out what is the best match ever. Of course, it's objective and arguable, but appreciate everyone out there listening. And if you did like this, please check out, hit that subscribe, hit that follow us on all the socials. And it's only $5 to become a patron. And there's like literally hundreds of podcasts at your fingertips for those long drives, those lonely showers. Whenever you need the podcast, we got you. And it's $5. So give us a shot, buy us a late Christmas gift, and buy yourself a month subscription to our Patreon. And you won't be upset that you did, because it's so worth it. We have so much fun on our Patreon, and we can't do it without our listeners and supporters. So thank you if you are a listener and supporter. We can't do it without you. I truly, truly mean that. And if you do also want to support us, you can go to chop-tees.com/poisonrana to get yourself a Lucha Frog of Doom hat, toque, hoodie, crew neck like I'm wearing right now. All the Lucha Frog Poison Rana gear is up there, and it goes to us. It supports your favorite independent podcasters. So thank you, everyone out there. We hope you're having a happy new year. We will be back on Tuesday, right after New Year's Evil. On Tuesday over on Post Wrestling, 10:05 p.m. We'll be live with our New Year's Evil post show, a brand new Up Next. We'll be covering all of that. And then, Wednesday, we're recording part 2 of Best Match Ever 2024. So lots and lots of podcasts. They never, ever stop, but appreciate you out there. That is it. That is all. Take care. Goodbye. Be safe and Happy New Year.
Ahoy!